Picture Tudor England, a land of opulent castles and simmering unrest. The year is 1531, and King Henry VIII's reign is reshaping the nation, not just politically, but religiously too. His break from Rome, his increasingly absolute power, and his volatile temperament were shaking the foundations of English society to its core. This period was marked by a profound and unsettling religious conflict, a clash between staunch Catholics and the burgeoning Protestant movement. Loyalty, or perceived lack thereof, could be a matter of life or death. Enter the 1531 Treason Act, a piece of legislation that solidified Henry VIII's absolute control and ruthlessly defined the boundaries of acceptable dissent. This act dramatically redefined treason, widening its scope and introducing a particularly gruesome punishment for a crime termed petty treason. This wasn't treason against the king himself, but rather the killing of a master by a servant, a wife by her husband, or, as we'll see, a crime with a less clear definition involving poisoning. The penalty for petty treason, under this brutal law, was boiling alive. This wasn't a new invention, mind you. Throughout history, boiling had been used as a form of execution, often reserved for those deemed particularly despicable, though rarely codified as it was in this act. It was a horrifying spectacle intended not just to end a life, but to make an example, to instill fear and obedience in a population already grappling with profound social and religious upheaval. Lady Margaret Harwood, unwittingly, would soon become a stark example of this terrifying reality, her story a chilling testament to the volatile times in which she lived. We'll now delve into the specific circumstances that led to her becoming a victim of this brutal and archaic law. Who was Lady Margaret Harwood? Before the accusations, before the boiling cauldron, she was a woman of some means, moving within the circles of Tudor society. While precise details of her early life remain elusive, fragments of information paint a picture of a woman of relative comfort, perhaps even influence, navigating the treacherous currents of a society deeply divided by religious and political strife. We know she participated in private gatherings, discussions that likely touched upon the controversial religious changes sweeping the nation. These meetings, seemingly innocuous in themselves, would prove to be her undoing. In the climate of Henry VIII's reign, such gatherings carried inherent risk. Suspicion was easily sown, and loyalty was constantly tested. The slightest hint of dissent, real or imagined, could attract unwanted attention. Unfortunately for Lady Margaret, her private life, it seems, contained elements that were deemed subversive. Secret correspondence, letters exchanged with individuals holding views contrary to the king's, emerged as key evidence against her. These letters, the content of which remains partially obscured by the mists of time, hinted at a network of individuals subtly challenging the religious policies of the crown. It is important to understand the context. The very act of expressing opinions counter to the king's, especially in writing, was a dangerous game. In this atmosphere of suspicion and paranoia, even seemingly minor actions could be twisted and amplified, leading to catastrophic consequences. Lady Margaret's private life, her circle of friends, and her correspondence all became pieces in a puzzle that would ultimately cost her her life. What started as seemingly harmless discussions and letters would unravel into a horrifying ordeal, revealing the darker side of Tudor power and the fragility of life in times of religious upheaval. The accusations against Lady Margaret Harwood were multifaceted, woven from threads of suspicion, political maneuvering, and the volatile religious climate of the time. While the precise charges remained somewhat ambiguous due to the scarcity of surviving documents, it's clear that her secret correspondence played a pivotal role. The letters, interpreted through the lens of Henry VIII's increasingly paranoid regime, were seen as evidence of sedition, a subtle undermining of the king's authority and his religious reforms. The key to understanding the accusations lies in the context of petty treason. While not directly accused of plotting against the king, her actions were framed within the broader context of disloyalty. Her private gatherings, her correspondence, and the implied criticism of the king's religious policies all contributed to the narrative of a woman actively opposing the established order. In the rigidly controlled society of Henry VIII's England, such perceived disloyalty, even if subtle, could be swiftly and brutally punished. The motivations behind the accusations remain a subject of speculation. Were they purely politically driven, a calculated move to eliminate a perceived threat to the king's power? Or were personal rivalries, perhaps fueled by religious differences, at play? The absence of detailed records leaves room for multiple interpretations. It's possible that a combination of factors contributed to her downfall, a mixture of political opportunism, personal vendettas, and the ever-present fear of religious dissent. Whatever the exact motivations, the outcome remained tragically consistent. Lady Margaret Harwood was deemed guilty of petty treason, her fate sealed by the chillingly efficient machinery of the Tudor state. The specifics of the charges, however, pale in comparison to the brutality of the punishment that followed. Imagine the scene: a public square, perhaps in a bustling town, the air thick with anticipation and dread. The crowd, a sea of faces, a mixture of morbid curiosity and hushed fear. Lady Margaret Harwood, dressed in a velvet gown, a stark contrast to the brutal fate that awaits her, stands before a cauldron of boiling water, a grotesque parody of a sacred vessel. The rich fabric of her gown, a symbol of her former status, offers a poignant counterpoint to the horrific spectacle about to unfold. The heat rising from the cauldron is almost palpable, mingling with the stench of boiling water and the sharp, acrid smell of herbs, a jarring juxtaposition of the sacred and the profane. From the perspective of the onlookers, the scene must have been terrifying. The sounds would have been deafening: the crackling fire, the hiss of the boiling water, the gasps and murmurs of the crowd. Some might have felt pity, others a chilling sense of awe, or perhaps a perverse satisfaction in witnessing the punishment of a perceived traitor. Perhaps, amidst the horror, a silent devotion to her faith or defiance could be observed in the faces of those who shared her beliefs. For Lady Margaret, the experience must have been unimaginable. The searing heat, the agonizing pain, the rising steam obscuring her vision. Her final moments, a blend of physical and emotional torment, a terrifying culmination of a life cut short. This is not a romanticized vision, but a brutal reconstruction based on historical accounts of boiling executions. The visual contrast, the elegant velvet gown against the barbaric reality of the cauldron, intensifies the horror of the event, highlighting the stark injustice of her death. The sensory details, though gruesome, offer a glimpse into the horrific reality of this medieval punishment, a stark reminder of the brutality of the era and the power of the state. Lady Margaret Harwood's execution wasn't merely a gruesome event, it was a carefully orchestrated spectacle with profound religious and political ramifications. Her case exemplifies the volatile religious landscape of Henry VIII's reign, a period marked by the tumultuous shift from Catholicism to Protestantism. The king's break with Rome and the establishment of the Church of England created deep divisions within the nation, fueling suspicion and paranoia. Lady Margaret, caught in the crossfire of this conflict, became a pawn in a larger political game. Her actions, perceived as opposition to the king's religious reforms, were skillfully manipulated to serve a political agenda. The accusations against her were not simply about personal disloyalty. They were about silencing dissent and consolidating power. Her secret correspondence, initially private exchanges, was transformed into damning evidence of treason, highlighting the vulnerability of individuals in the face of a powerful and ruthless regime. Propaganda played a crucial role in shaping public opinion. The narrative surrounding her execution likely emphasized her supposed treachery and disloyalty, portraying her as a threat to the established order. This carefully constructed narrative served to reinforce the king's authority and justify the brutal punishment. The gruesome spectacle of her boiling execution, witnessed by a large crowd, served as a potent warning to others who might dare to question the king's absolute power or his religious policies. Her case stands as a chilling example of how religious and political conflicts can be used to silence dissent and control the narrative, a cautionary tale relevant even today. The manipulation of information and the use of fear to maintain control remain enduring aspects of power dynamics. The visual impact of Lady Margaret Harwood's execution was deliberately designed to be shocking, a stark contrast between elegance and brutality. Imagine the scene: a woman of means, likely adorned in a fine velvet gown, a symbol of her social standing, facing a horrific death. The rich texture of the velvet, the carefully chosen color, all speak of a life of comfort and privilege, a world violently shattered by the boiling cauldron. This juxtaposition, the elegant attire against the barbaric method of execution, would have been deeply unsettling for the onlookers. The symbolic use of herbs in the boiling process adds another layer of complexity. Herbs, traditionally associated with healing and sacred rituals, were ironically used in the execution itself. The addition of herbs to the boiling water, while perhaps intended to speed the process, creates a disturbing visual and symbolic irony. The sacred is twisted into the profane, the life-giving properties of herbs subverted to serve a gruesome purpose. This deliberate perversion of symbolism would have added to the unsettling nature of the spectacle, forcing the spectators to confront the brutal reality of the event. The visual and symbolic contrasts, the fine gown against the boiling cauldron, the sacred herbs twisted into instruments of death, would have left a lasting impression on those who witnessed it. The clash between refinement and brutality, between life and death, would have been deeply disturbing, highlighting the arbitrary and unjust nature of Lady Margaret's punishment. It was a carefully crafted display of power, using visual imagery to reinforce the message of the king's absolute authority and the consequences of opposing him. The chilling tale of Lady Margaret Harwood isn't confined to the dusty pages of history. It resonates deeply with contemporary events. While the methods of persecution have evolved, the underlying mechanisms remain disturbingly familiar. Moral panics, fueled by misinformation and fear-mongering, continue to target individuals and groups perceived as threats to the established order. The manipulation of public opinion, the distortion of truth, and the weaponization of social media echo the propaganda strategies employed during Henry VIII's reign. We see parallels in contemporary political persecution, where dissenting voices are silenced, reputations are destroyed through targeted campaigns, and individuals are unjustly punished for their beliefs or affiliations. The abuse of power, the silencing of dissent, and the creation of an atmosphere of fear, these are not relics of a bygone era. They are persistent challenges in our own time. Lady Margaret's story serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the fragility of individual rights and the enduring threat of political manipulation. The ease with which private correspondence can be twisted into evidence of treason, the power of a carefully crafted narrative to shape public perception, and the devastating consequences of unchecked power, these are timeless lessons. Her fate underscores the importance of critical thinking, the protection of free speech, and the vigilance against the abuse of power in all its forms. The echoes of her story serve as a stark reminder that the fight for justice and truth is an ongoing battle, one that requires constant vigilance and unwavering commitment. Lady Margaret Harwood's story, though tragic, offers invaluable insights into the complexities of power, faith, and justice. Her execution, a brutal spectacle designed to intimidate and control, serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked authority and the fragility of individual rights in times of social and political upheaval. The boiling cauldron, a symbol of both physical and spiritual cleansing, ironically became a testament to the injustice she suffered. Her private correspondence, intended for personal reflection and communication, was twisted into evidence of treason, highlighting the vulnerability of individuals in the face of a regime determined to silence dissent. The enduring legacy of Lady Margaret's case extends far beyond the historical context of Tudor England. It speaks to the timeless themes of political manipulation, religious conflict, and the ease with which reputations can be destroyed through misinformation and biased narratives. Her story serves as a potent warning against the dangers of unchecked power, the manipulation of truth, and the silencing of dissenting voices. The brutality of her execution serves as a chilling reminder of the consequences of unchecked ambition and the abuse of power. Ultimately, Lady Margaret Harwood's story compels us to reflect on the importance of critical thinking, the protection of individual rights, and the vigilance against all forms of oppression. Her tragic fate should not be forgotten, rather, it should serve as a constant reminder of the need to protect the vulnerable, challenge injustice, and safeguard the principles of fairness and truth in our own time. Her story is a somber yet essential chapter in understanding the enduring struggle for justice and freedom.